Begin transmission. Hello, everybody. It is Chris, Milton, Ben to talk about some Star Wars. This is Outer Rim Transmission number 92. This week, we're breaking down the latest trailer for The Mandalorian Season 3. We're reviewing The Bad Batch Season 2, Episode 4, titled Faster. And we're going to get into some really cool things that might be happening in 2025 with Star Wars maybe returning to the big screen. All that and more on this episode of Outer Rim Transmission. If you want to listen to this, you can go ahead and stream it on any podcast streaming platform. But we also go live on YouTube so you can begin to chat in the chat room. So how's it going, guys?
Good, fellas. How you guys been? I am glad to be back to do some Star Wars talk.
Yes, nothing like it, right? Every week it's just clockwork. Just, hey, it's 9 o'clock on a Friday. We're here to talk Star Wars. We're here to talk to you guys in the chat. As always, how's it going, Ben?
Good. Yeah, I mean, we're like the Star Wars shows every week. We're always just penciled in for Friday night at 9 p.m.
Heck yeah. So I don't have anything in particular with Star Wars to bring up other than, hey, I'm continuing my painting journey with the Star Wars Legion stuff. I've been painting like a machine. I could be like you and Milton and have some Star Wars thing in the background. I think I will. I will put Mandalorian on maybe next week as I'm painting in the background. But I've been just, taking a trip down the history lane of things and just looking about things I'm doing in Europe and getting more into that culture and all that there. So yeah, other than that, I've just been painting Mandalorian Super Commandos and just, maybe I'll get into some Star Wars video games as we get closer to Jedi Survivor. But not much else to report on from my end, honestly. Anything for you guys?
Honestly, not this week for me, just except for the episode for Bad Batch. This week's been just kind of crazy with with the real world, aka having a job. So that always gets in the way. But really, no personal things with Star Wars this week that I can think of. I mean, I'm always reminded of it, but really nothing that I interacted with this week.
Yeah,
I mean,
fair
you know that
enough.
that yeah, I mean that's how it can be sometimes. Just a basic normal week, nothing too crazy going on. For me, the main thing for me when it comes to my week in Star Wars was, as we all know, a couple weeks ago I started the start of my watch through of The Mandalorian
Hmm.
leading up to the new season. So a couple weeks ago I started with the first two episodes. Last week was the third one. This week was the fourth one where you have Mando going to the planet where the Gina Carano episode where he goes to the planet and it's like kind of mirroring Return of the Jedi and stuff, with the walker in the forest and Grogu messing around with the frogs and whatnot. And
Hmm.
a lot of people like had hated on that episode in the first season, and like looking back on it now, I really enjoyed it. Like it's just a fun like mission, and to me, honestly, since you're having like I don't know, you're introducing such like a nice area, the whole idea of like family to Din Djarin and Grogu through that woman and her family. To me, I think unless we get see like to me, okay, like th- when it comes to the Mandalorian show, I either of course Din Djarin could die at the end of the series, doing something heroic, blah 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 blah, something heroic. But for me, a second option I think that there's a chance of happening is after all the big events happen, all whatever action packed thing we get with Thrawn and Ahsoka and whoever, to me, I think there's a chance they give Din a happy ending with him and Grogu potentially going to settle down on that planet, and you get your classic Star Wars happy ending, kind of like Return of the Jedi esque, and have him go there and finally take his helmet off for that chick. And I think there's a chance of that happening because of them introducing that, and we still haven't connected. We've connected back to almost everything else in the Mandalorian season one except for that planet. So to me, it's like I wonder if they're saving that for a really long
Yeah.
term play in this show as a whole. So that was kind of my week in Star Wars, just kind of really thinking deep on that episode.
Yeah, it's good introspection there, Ben, because yeah, I got that feeling too, where it's like, hey, this is he can go one of two ways. He can go and try to save Grogu from Moff Gideon, in which he did, or he could just stay there and let the bounty hunters keep chasing him, I guess, and eventually maybe get killed or whatever. But it was a nice thought of like, hey, this could be what happens if I settle down. I have this nice woman here. They're very nice people, very simple lives. Just completely what I would like at this point rather than running away and being with these violent situations all the time. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
either go to Blaze of Glory or we just see Din Djarin on that planet, and that's why we never see or hear of him again. And we
Yeah.
always think of like, hey, what happens with these prequel Jedi? Like, why aren't they involved with the original trilogy, the ones that survive? And it's like, well, why wouldn't Din Djarin be at the Battle of Exegol with the rest of them and all that? Well, hey, there's a way to write him out. Just the guy's done fighting. He's tired. He's just gonna sit here. And I think it's nice if we can get more Star Wars characters to just
Oh,
have an ending like that.
I'm about
Well,
to say
and
if you want to just do it like that, I mean, just have Ryan Johnson write his his particular episodes of writing them out because and Ryan Johnson will make him trash like he made Luke Skywalker.
yeah.
And
That is
actually, you know what? I was thinking about this when Ben was talking. So I will say I had a moment in Star Wars this week because this week I have the Peacock network
Oh,
because
yep.
I'm a huge wrestling fan, as you can see. I'm wearing another wrestling shirt like I always do.
Love
So
Peacock, by the way.
yeah, so I was watching a wrestling pay per view or so whatever show on there, and they do the ads. So I guess Ryan Johnson has a new show called Poker Face coming
oh.
out, and it looks good. I mean, I was okay. I'm gonna check it out. And then I remembered he have that new movie that came out was a Glass Onion, the
Hmm.
sequel to
Yep.
Knives Out. I need to watch it. I heard it's really good. And my thoughts were going here. It's like, wait a minute, this guy is such a talented director and storyteller, and he can make these individual stories and these universes that he's created. But you wrecked Star Wars like that. That's where my mind went at one point this week.
Oh.
I'm thinking like, my God, like Knives Out was fire. I heard Glass Onion's good. I'm gonna watch that. This Poker Face show looks good because he wrote it. I think he directed some of it. And it's like, damn, bro, you make these good shows and you wrecked Luke Skywalker. Like
Well,
I legit went to that point at one point, and I'm thinking, wow, like Ryan Johnson, you should have never touched Star Wars. Like
Oh, I
well,
this validated all my feelings about that movie because it's like I know he's talented, and I remember how hype I was
no.
when they announced him being the director. I'm thinking, oh
Ooh.
my God, he tells good smart stories.
well, Mil-
He's really good at telling the micro versions or the micro side of a character. I'm thinking dope. Hopefully the fight's gonna be on point. And then I'm thinking, and obviously we got The Last Jedi, and even looking back on it, it's like, wait a minute, he's cranking out good projects since that movie. And it's like, bro, what did you do with Star Wars? Like,
well, Milton.
how did you let that happen? But that was my week. Now that I think about it, because my head went there multiple times. Every time I see his trailer for his new show, I'm thinking, Ryan Johnson, you sob, you ruined Luke Skywalker.
Well, Milton. Here's the thing. I think when you were explaining that, I know exactly what it's like. So we use a lot of fitness and sports analogies on this podcast. What it is how many times have we seen it in the NFL? I'm sure. I mean, even with the Eagles being as great as they were this season, how many times does an NFL coach every week they get way too cute on a play call and do a double trick play, blah 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 blah, and then the play gets blown up and they lose 20 yards. Like that's what it was. He got too cute and overthunk that movie versus just like not overthinking it. And I really think that's what it was because like you said, if you look at all of his other film work, it's like really good. I mean, you didn't even mention Looper. Looper's a really good
Oh
movie.
no, yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Everything.
like
No, the problem is everything past the Last Jedi.
oh
Because
yeah,
before that, I was like, oh, he's the guy. You put him on the movie. I want him. Like I said, he was nice with the stuff with Breaking Bad, Looper, Brick, all that stuff he's touched. And then at Last Jedi, we got what we got. And then post Last Jedi, I'm thinking, man, this guy really is a really good director. He's a great storyteller. This is what I was wanting from him. And then it's thinking, wait a minute, you have us watching a car chase in space for 2 hours? Bro,
Yeah.
like, come
Oh,
on.
this opened up a can of worms. So because now I have something I want to talk about for my week in Star Wars, other than painting Star Wars miniatures. So first it was Ben that jogged Milton's memory. Now Milton's jogging my memory, apparently. So the Disney UK and Ben, I don't know, or Milton, if I don't know if you've seen this because I put this out earlier today. They put out a tweet, the Star Wars UK Twitter handle. They put out 3 images of Finn, one from each movie, and they say he's a
Oh,
big
yeah, I know
deal
where you're
in the
going with this.
Resistance. Watch Finn's journey on Disney Plus, and I got a little
Yes.
mad because I literally retweeted this. And I said, "What journey? You guys left the
Yeah,
storyline in the dust after the Force Awakens." Shaking my head. Dot dot dot.
exactly. And so let me just interject here. You're absolutely right. Because only thing I'll give the sequel trilogy is that first movie did its job to set things up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'll give JJ credit for what he was trying to build with the Force Awakens. I've always said I kind of like that movie. It's actually not that bad. Ryan Johnson and Kathleen Kennedy, screw you, because you two literally you disrespected Finn throughout that
Mm-hmm.
whole
Yeah.
next 2 films. Hell, you disrespected Chewie because Chewie does nothing. Okay? Hell, the worst character that gets the most disrespect besides Luke Skywalker is R2D2 because all
Mm-hmm.
he does is wake up, show some
He
shit,
sleeps.
and go back to
He
sleep.
sleeps.
That's all he does. That's all he does. And I don't want to hear. Literally, I get into this fight with my boy. His name's actually Chris too. I get in a fight with my boy Chris all the time because he'll sit there and try to defend the Last Jedi, and I'm like, bro, that makes no sense. You love Luke Skywalker too. This makes no sense. This makes no
Yeah.
sense how they disrespected the legacy characters when really you should be building the legacy characters up to in order to build up your new characters. Like it makes no sense. It's like professional wrestling. If you want to get somebody new that's over, you have to build them up
Mm-hmm.
with the old guard. You have to tell a story with them. You have to make the crowd want to be with them, which means you got to use the old heads to build up the new heads. Like it's how it works.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's a funny analogy too. Like, or not a funny, appropriate analogy too. Like when it comes to like wrestling, that's one thing. Like, say what you will about the WWE and everything associated around it, but they know how to treat their like nostalgia characters.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they 100% like they know like it always like me. I'm not even like the biggest wrestling fan. Like I'll tune in like if I hear like oh Steve Austin's coming or potentially The Rock could guest star or like people like the big people could show up like stuff like that. They know how to like get those guys hyped and like bring them into the fold like perfectly, but also like you said, putting on the new people, like putting on the new wrestlers. Like they do such a good job of that, in my opinion, and that's why, in my opinion, like WWE's entertaining because like they know how to do like a perfect blend of the old and new for the people being involved.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So how about a heated intro into this week's episode? Sorry, Ryan John. Sorry to dunk on you, but it just one thing after the other, one thing after the other. Milton said,
do not defend that man. Like honestly, like
Hey, he's always welcome if he wants to come on here to chat Star Wars.
listen, I'll be the first one to talk to him, and I wouldn't
Yeah.
disrespect him. Like I would have a conversation. It's the fact that I would
Yeah.
say, Ryan, like you're that talented, bro. Why'd you do that with The Last Jedi? Because all your work now, it does not validate what you did with The Last Jedi. That to me, it makes no sense. It's like you're that smart kid who wanted to take a day off, taking one test, but then you want to ace the next 4 or 5 in a row. Bro, what would you think? Just be consistent. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, be consistent the whole time. Like, you got too cute. Run the damn ball. Okay. don't pass it 50 times. You run it down his throat. Okay. You're a running
Pete
team.
Carroll at the 1 yard line in the Super Bowl.
Facts. If anyone knows what he's talking about, go watch that Super Bowl. Then you'll say, "Oh, that was Ryan Johnson at the 1." You know what I'm saying? Like The Force Awakens set you up to score. and you want to
Yeah, it was Russell. The Force Awakens was Russell Wilson getting the game-winning drive, 50 seconds left against the Patriots, getting down at the 1, and then going, nah. Instead of giving the ball to the best running back in the league, let's throw it and get picked off. Like that's what it was for all our sports fans. That's the analogy.
Mind you, and here's nothing. You could have repeated as champions. So hell, Star Wars would have had 2 blockbuster sequels in a row that would be universally loved by the fans and critics if only Rian Johnson did his job. But okay, that's enough.
Oh man, how's that for a start? Everybody, we're fired up here on the Outer Rim Transmission. But we would like to see what your thoughts and hear what your thoughts are. As always, we go live every Friday at 9 o'clock Eastern Time. And we also are available to download on any of your podcast apps of choice, including Spotify, Apple Music, Google Play, and more. So we're going to jump into things for out this week. We have 2 comic book releases that I reviewed on this channel right here, and that is Bounty Hunters issue number 30, as well as Han Solo and Chewbacca issue 9. So both great, fantastic, fast reads, kinetic, perfect examples of Star Wars comics done right in all sense of the medium. So make sure you go ahead and check that content out. Milton, this one's for you. We got a little update on a game that I recently got into that I know you've been a fan of. Galaxy of Heroes is adding Admiral Trench.
Oh.
Yeah, apparently he's being added to the game, and I just wanted to mark that down as, hey, it's cool that the Separatists are getting some love, because I have a buddy of mine who's a Separatist fanatic, literally in every sense of the word. Dan Grievous, he's got a YouTube channel, check it out, where he does awesome like video music montages. We were going back and forth. He was very excited when I tweeted with him in it. Admiral Trench is coming to the game, and it's like, oh my gosh, like this game has great representation of the Separatists. You have Newt Gunray in there, you have Poggle the Lesser, you have this guy, you have Geonosians, so there's a lot of cool stuff in there, as well as all the Legends content. They had recently put Zori Bliss, so they're even paying homage to the sequels there as well. So I think he's coming
you know what
soon.
though, for what that game is, I'm surprised. Well, no, I'm not surprised, but I'm actually glad that it's nice seeing the detail that they put in the game in the sense of what the characters look like. Like when I see Anakin Skywalker in that game, he looks like Hayden Christensen. You know, I think they're putting Jedi Padawan Anakin in the game soon, because I know he popped up as one of like the computer characters that you play against at one point. That was like this week when I saw that.
Oh,
but I think they're going to add him eventually, because usually when they you know that when they sneak in a character they haven't seen, you're just like, wait, I haven't seen you, or I haven't seen that character before, but I think they're going to sneak him in later as the game gets more developed. But because I was thinking about games about Star Wars the other day too, and I'm thinking like I'm kind of hoping we get some type of like, I know we have the Fallen Order coming out, or excuse me, the Jedi Survivor coming out. I would like to get a Star Wars game of all 3 trilogies like that, like putting like kind of like the Skywalker saga for Lego. Give me an open world game like that, like kind of like how Survivor is like built, or how Force Awakens was like built, or not Force Awakens, Force Unleashed was built. Like, I want
real people, like
obviously like real people to play. Like I want something like that, kind of like you ever play the Matrix game on PlayStation 2? I still have it.
Oh yeah,
not the Matrix Reloaded.
Enter the Matrix or something.
Yeah, unlock the Matrix or something
like that.
I still have that game, and I love that game.
Oh,
I want something like that, or kind of like Revenge of the Sith,
the Obi-Wan game, or
yeah.
I mean, that's those type of games. Like that's the thing with Star Wars, like the gaming sphere. I mean, gosh, guys, we could do like a 3-hour podcast talking gaming and like what we want and our favorite things and all that. Like gaming's such a big part of Star Wars. I mean, you mentioned it before, Chris, like before we started the podcast, like gaming is like a huge part of Star Wars for you. And it is for like so many people. And like for me, it's just like, I enjoyed the Fallen Order game. It's like great and everything, but I still just want more, like I'm just ready for that open world game.
I think you need that for all 3 trilogies. I think they need to do like an ultimate like game where there's all 9 episodes, where like it's like what 150 hours, 200 hours of gameplay. Like that'd be dope. Like I mean, you can make like that game would be, you make $1 billion off that game.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. That damn game would be making records if it had the
Facts. Like
fidelity of the
I
graphics.
mean, think about this though. Was it next summer, which is 2024? They're going to be making NCAA, bringing that football game back for college football. That game itself is going to make $1 billion because everybody wants it. It's been something that's been wanting to come back. It's been 10 years since the last game. When's the last time they made a Star Wars game with the original trilogy characters, legacy characters, where you're going through from episode 1 to 9? Can you imagine how dope that would be as an open world game?
I'm trying to think. The last game they made like that was Revenge of the Sith, but that wasn't open world.
Yeah, that was probably like the last. I mean, episode wise. But I'm saying, imagine like you have the 9 episodes, you play them, but within the episodes, I'm sure there's side missions. I'm sure there's little puzzles.
Yeah, the last
that'd be kind of dope. I'd buy it. I'd spend the $60 to get it.
The last game. Yeah, it probably was Revenge of the Sith, where you play straight away. It's the last games that I can think of personally are the Revenge of the Sith game, the Clone Wars game, the Obi-Wan game. You play through episode 1. You play through on Xbox. You play through pre-Phantom Menace to the end of Phantom Menace.
Yes.
And that's about it. Like, we don't have any type of. I mean, the last. The last Star Wars game was the Super Nintendo game for the original trilogy.
Fire.
Oh yeah, Fire games. But
those games were freaking great.
And I mean, look, I still play. Look, I play. I haven't played Commando yet on PS4, even though I have that one.
Ooh.
I haven't played. Yeah, I have that. I have the dual pack. I have Star Wars Racer and Commando.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah. And then obviously I have Rogue Squadron on 64 and Shadows of the Empire. So there we go. Shadows of the Empire is another one. Like, I mean, again, we love those games. And Shadows of the Empire was very much an original story.
Oh, don't get me
Dash
started.
Rendar. So like, I know how much you love Dash Rendar, Chris. So can you imagine but think about this though. 9 episodes. In between the episodes, you get the Shadows of the Empire story in it as well. You tell that little nugget. And then you get, let's say they want to retweak it just to throw some legacy story in there. The Force Unleashed story in there a little bit. Use that and retcon it a little bit. How about in between episodes 6 and 7, retcon some story, add in there. Like, how dope would that be? Like, honestly,
here's the thing. Ben,
I was gonna say here's kind of my. Oh, sorry,
ahead.
Chris. We both we're so excited talking about this gaming stuff. You go first.
All right. Here's the thing. All right. So I'm liking this to what Assassin's Creed is doing. All right, because what Milton's saying is great, but this would take like 25 years. With all the stuff he's putting in here, this would be on Xbox.
With me, dude.
Like, this would be on PlayStation 7.
I'd buy a new system because of it.
This would be a PlayStation 7 game. But basically, what you could do is Assassin's Creed is essentially revamping the way they're releasing their content. They're doing something called Assassin's Creed Infinity, I believe, which is essentially a platform, like a hub, where they will continually add new Assassin's Creed games, but they're kind of interlinked in this hub interface, and everything kind of continues, and there's like little smaller games inside between the bigger games and all that sort of thing. So I'm thinking like maybe something like Star Wars could do something like that. Like, they could start off like the initial release of like the Star Wars Unlimited game or something. They released the prequel trilogy, right? Boom. And then a year later they release like something in the Dark Times that attaches to that. Like, they could use this. Basically what they would do is they would have a single game engine created where they could just keep adding like stuff more rapidly because everything is on the same game engine. So they could just be like, okay, episodes 1 through 3 are going to be the official launch of this platform. The next year we're going to add this. The year after that, and it'll just kind of continue. And I could see maybe if they were able to figure something out, but it would require a lot of developers. Like, you would have to have like an FPS, like a first-person shooter developer on this thing. You would have to have like a flight combat person, like the people like from Motive that did Squadrons, maybe, and they're doing the vehicle. It would be a huge endeavor. You would have like basically an entire publisher, like having all the different arms of, okay, this developer doing it. It would be awesome, and I would love to see it. But there's my idea, Ben.
Well, see, what I was thinking is, so I'm just adding up some potential, like, what the profits would be. So I think what they should do personally is, so let's just say we have 11 movies in the saga. plus say the Clone Wars, that'd be 12. Plus we'll throw in Shadows of the Empire, 13. And then we'll throw in, I don't know, let's just say a Republic Commando era type thing. So let's just say you're looking at like a profit. So okay, so what I'm thinking is they should do, like you said, Chris, something like a Star Wars Unlimited thing. But I would say do it this way: release it in waves over a potential like 5-year span or something, 4-year span, and do it like kind of Fortnite does with seasons. Do the first release, episode 1, The Phantom Menace, say $20. Second release in 6 months, $20. So then every year you're paying basically $40 like a game you would get every year or whatever. You know, you pay $10-20 and you get the new game. So it's like it's incentivizing them to make the game versus you paying like a one-time charge. And then it's incentivizing us because it's like, hey, you know, we can save up $20 over the next 6 months for the next release, you know? So like, I think they could do it that way by making it almost a seasonal type thing, like every 6 months or so release one quote unquote movie game and just do it that way, because then it's like, it makes the game feel fresh and it makes you get excited and hyped because, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but when Fortnite has their new season, like that's all you see trending on social media still. And so it's like that could be Star Wars like every 5-6 months.
Yeah.
Boom, Star Wars is releasing a new quote unquote season and it's a new game.
Yeah, I don't even play Fortnite, and a lot of my friends who are happily married and got children take time to play that. And I bring it
Whoa.
up to make a point because these men and women, again, I got my boys, their wives, and their sister that play Fortnite, and they're always trying to get me to play it. I'm like, I ain't about that Fortnite life. But
Have
they
you
say how
tried it
much they
though?
love it.
It's
And
so
I've
much
watched
better
it,
now.
never was into it. And they tell me how much they really get into it, and they say like, oh, we're so hyped to get like the new like acts that come out or
Oh
expansions or
yeah, yeah, yeah.
characters. I mean, they spend money.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And I think obviously if that model is working in a sense of, you know, I'll take Chris's idea with the best of Ben's idea, like that would be dope. I'd pay for it. I'd get the PlayStation 5. That means I have to get that because I plan on getting a PS5 when NCAA is coming out. Like that's the only reason I'm getting one. You know what I'm saying? Like
And
because I
by then
love
they'll
those
finally
games.
have them in stock.
There we go. You know what I'm saying? Like
Maybe you'll be able to walk
I'll
into a
buy the
Best Buy
damn.
and buy one for once.
Yeah. But that's why like I've been lacking on gaming over the past like year because I feel like whether it was Star Wars or anything that like in that model, they really haven't been like very creative. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to that, like we were all looking forward to 1313 when that was being marketed at one
Yeah.
point. That game would have been so fire. And you guys know exactly how I feel about gaming since Star Wars took it over, or excuse me, since Disney, whatever took it over. It's been lacking, in my opinion. They've had a couple hits, but it hasn't been, you know, the greatest.
Well, here's the thing, Milton, like talking about like this Star Wars gaming stuff, the closest thing I think we're going to get to obviously we have Fallen Order coming out here soon, but I think the closest thing we're going to get to the open world Star Wars game, of course we had the Lego game, but Chris, I know you and me have talked extensively about it, but man, I'm so hyped for the Starfield game
Oh yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
that game, it's like it's a sci-fi open world, hundreds of planets and stuff, and like
Yep.
that's like the closest thing we're going to get to Star Wars open world gaming
You're right.
until the actual open world Star Wars game, because I think they said, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, like there's like 700 or 800 planets you can explore on that game.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So it's like you can design your own ship,
Uh-huh.
all this stuff. Like that's the closest thing we're going to get to Star Wars gaming. Obviously it's not Star Wars, but that's going to be the closest feel we get to open world Star Wars. And that's why I'm so hyped for that game, because it's like, I literally just talked to my cousin about this earlier in the week. I was like, dude, I can't wait for that game because, like, sure, I literally told him, sure, it's not Star Wars, but in the back of my head, I'm going to be thinking, hey, this is a Star Wars game I'm in, just because it's like, it's sci-fi, it's like open world, and like, I'm so excited for that game. And it's like, that could be us getting hyped, but times 1,000 if it was actually a Star Wars game.
Oh man. So there you go. Sound off in the comments. Give us tweets after the fact. Tweet at us. Send us email, outerrimtransmission@gmail.com. What are your ideas for a Star Wars game that you've had spinning around in your head for a while? We want to hear your ideas. We want to see your ideas in the chat or otherwise. So, getting into it, guys. This is something that just popped up. Ben, you alerted me of this. We have this. I don't know if it's from an article, but I have an image that it's floating around here. It's about upcoming release dates in 2025. Right? There's a bevy of release dates, starting with Fantastic Four, and we end all the way up at the end of this list for 2025 at 12/19/25, December 19th, 2025. Disney is slated to have an untitled Star Wars movie. We've been tricked before; these things can change, but this would line up to what we've been hearing in the rumor mill about a certain what's his name, Lindelof.
David Lindelof.
David Lindelof's film, the guy of Lost fame, of Watchmen on HBO fame, his movie that we've been hearing about could be a post with The Rise of Skywalker. So, Milton, thoughts on maybe actually having a date on this thing and maybe having a movie to look forward to?
Look, I don't believe nothing until I get
Yeah.
tangible proof.
Yeah.
I mean, look, and that's not me being like negative. It's the fact that, like, how many times have, whether it's DC, Marvel, Star Wars, Disney, whomever, would say, "Oh, we got this late," and then boom, nothing. I mean, hell, we're still waiting to hear about Ryan Johnson's trilogy. We're still waiting to hear about those writers from Game of Thrones and their trilogy of movies. We were talking about Rogue Squadron with Patty Jenkins. That's still, up in the air.
Mhm.
Like, I don't believe nothing until I actually get a title, an actual confirmed release date from the horse's mouth itself. So, I mean, we'll see. I mean, it's been a minute. I mean, I know what the last movie that came out for Star Wars was, what, 2019?
19.
Yeah.
2019. So it's been, what, almost 3-4 years going on. So I mean, like, I think it's due. I think 7 years would be.
Right?
What was it?
Would it be 6 years? Yeah, 6 years.
Yeah. So like 5 or 6 years.
So
So I think at that point, I think the audience will be ready for a new movie. I mean, now,
yeah.
go ahead.
No, I would say that's a significant amount of time. We're closer to almost the gap we had between Revenge of the Sith and Force Awakens, which was a 10-year gap.
Right.
So we're closer to a 10-year
We're
gap.
close.
And, we've been saying this, like, it wasn't as magical going, let's say, to Solo Star Wars Story premiere or the Rise of Skywalker premiere, because nothing compares to the Force Awakens. But what could ever get back to that level of hype would be if you have a time in between to reminisce about the good times and nostalgia of going to the Toys R Us's and waiting for the new toys for the new movie, because it's been 10 years, a decade, that sort of thing. So this movie could really pop off, and I could see this thing, especially if this is taking place in a brand new time period that's far flung from anything else. I think the uniqueness of a new era of Star Wars storytelling. Now, we have heard might be a post The Rise of Skywalker. We'll see. But yeah, this could bode well for Star Wars. I mean, that wasn't their ideal plan. They wanted to have like one movie a year at one point, or maybe two a year at one point, maybe ratchet it up to that degree. That's what they were testing with Last Jedi and Solo being so close together. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
I mean,
Yeah,
I mean,
I
look,
think-
let's hope that. I'm sorry to interrupt, Ben, but let's hope.
Oh, you're good.
Whatever movie that they decide to make is going to be something that we all want to see. I think at this point, Star Wars fans are very, cynical, and as we should. I mean, we do feel kind of burned in some ways, but I'm hoping that whatever Kathleen and her team decides that they're going to make is going to be something that's universally loved, and that is going to be needed for the Star Wars, universe.
Yeah, I think with this movie, I have, well, then again, Milton. I mean, I kind of chuckled when you said, until we hear it from the horse's mouth. But the thing is, the horse has told us things many times, and still they never happened. But no, like on a like serious note, I think though, when it comes to this movie, I don't want to like put a bunch of faith into it, but I think it'll happen. I think it'll be, if not December 19th, it might be December 13th, like a week before the 12th or whatever, because my thing with it is, even setting, okay, so like we mentioned, we've heard different things about the Lindelof project. And my thing is, all right, so rewind a couple months ago. We had that article from Deadline or Hollywood Reporter come out on like a Monday talking about how it was like a Monday morning, how basically, and this was all right around when Bob Iger came back to Disney. So like keep all that in mind as well as I'm breaking this down. So, we had this article come out basically saying the Disney folks told Lucasfilm and Kathy to like, hey, don't announce movies until you 100% like know, they're coming. And then the next day, we get the article from either of the two, like Deadline or Hollywood Reporter, talking about the Lindelof movie. So to me, it's like, I think a lot of this stuff, we of course are skeptics as Star Wars fans, and rightfully so. We've been burned so many times. But my thing is, like, if you think about it, post that article from a couple months ago, like, the only thing really in terms of Star Wars movies we've heard about is the Lindelof movie for the most part. And, now we have this date, the December 19th date. So my thing is, I think this probably is trending in that direction to potentially be that movie. And I would say I'm more positive than not, just because kind of you have that basis of like some of those reports saying like, hey, only announce like movies that you're pretty sure are going to happen or are going to release at some point. So like, I think I think this movie is our best chance we've had at a movie in a really, really long time.
Yeah, so we'll keep our eyes peeled. Maybe a Star Wars celebration, less than 3 months in April. They would hopefully announce that.
That's one more thing I want to throw out there too. So if we think about it this way, Celebration, we talked about it briefly before we hopped on this show. So Celebration is here in a couple months, and normally for a movie, like in terms of marketing, in terms of production, in terms of post-production, everything, you're talking like in total to release date, it's like a year and a half or so. Like I told you and Milton before the call, what's basically 18 months after Celebration, December 19th, 2025. So It's just like, I just feel like we're getting into that range where it has to be accurate, I think. But
yeah, we hear this. Yeah. So, hey, we'll look forward to that.
Yeah.
We're looking forward to things, but we're also reviewing things. As I mentioned off the top, we're talking about the Bad Batch Season 2, Episode 4, titled Faster. Are you guys ready to get into this one or what?
Let's get into it.
Let's get into
it. Greatest Star Wars show ever.
All right, so what happens in this episode? What happens in sorry, because distracted. But anyway, getting into this episode, we have a little side adventure with Omega, with Tech, with Wrecker. They go along with our old pal, our favorite person, our mascot of outerrimtransmission, if you will, Sid, the Trandoshan there of Lord Mantell. They take her on this mission to go and basically get money from a race or something like that. She ends up getting captured. They end up having to get destroyed. That ends up getting destroyed. So it ends up being Tech that gets into the racer and wins the day to free her. And that's basically the mission. So I'll start my opening salvo on this mission. Look great. Like this episode, the sound effects, the cinematic style, the homage to the Phantom Menace was really good, really fun. And that's mainly the great thing about this show is that they do push what's able to be done on a small screen for animation. You could hold this show up to anything released on the big screen from Pixar or anything, and it would be like, yeah, this is the same quality, but we're getting it on the TV on a weekly basis in 2023, which is just so cool. So from that perspective, I like that. I like the world building, that there's these things called riot racers, and they're, kind of akin to pod racing or swoop racing, one or the other. And I did like that there's just a ton of different alien diversity in this episode, different racers, lots of cool different droids, just a bunch of fun elements in here. But that's kind of where my positives leave off, because this episode just again, we're a quarter way through the biggest thing I have with this is, again, I think we had the same arguments. Season one is just like a little lopsided. Like you have a great, fantastic episode, and then you get an episode that kind of just spins its wheels in the mud for a little bit, and you're scratching your head. And I think it's something to be a little bit worried about because we are now a quarter of the way through the season, and we still don't even know what the heck the Bad Batch crew proper is doing. Yes, we can surmise the idea of the entire thing is going to be about the Clone Rebellion. We've been getting the good little things with Rampart here and there. We didn't get one in this episode, but it's like, all right, I understand what the overall scope of this season is going to be, but I would like to get to see what the heads behind the Bad Batch are doing. What's Omega's plan? What's Hunter's plan? Hunters and Echo aren't even in this episode. They're off doing some side job somewhere else. Maybe we'll get that perspective next episode. But just to kind of keep my opening salvo shorter here, it's just this episode underwhelmed me. I was disappointed. I just feel like we took 2 steps back where we were really going full speed ahead the last episode. There wasn't really anything to glean from the characters. Sure, we already knew Sid was a sketchy person. I don't think we needed an entire episode to just spell that out even more to us. So yeah, I mean, it was a very shallow episode for me. Milton, what'd you think of this episode?
Well, before I get into it, I feel like this particular episode, like our podcast tonight, is going to be a short one because I feel like we're all on the same page. I have a 5-word sentence for this.
Oh,
This episode was unnecessary. Okay,
Okay.
because literally I'm watching the episode and it visually looked great. It visually looked great. I like you said, the homage to the pod racing, swoop bikes, all that stuff. Like that was tight. Okay, like it looks good. Like this is familiar to me. Then I'm thinking, wow, we just had a strong episode 3 that pushed the story and narrative of the characters that we want to see and that we like. Then you pull this crap again. Like, why are you taking 4 steps back with 3 or 4 steps forward with 3 steps back? You just threw off the rhythm of the story. They should have put another episode in there to kind of finish up what's going on with Crosshair. Is it Crosshair?
Mm-hmm.
Crosshair
and Cody. Yeah, or at least like tell us another very family-oriented story with the Bad Batch and what's going on with them and trying to get them figured out. Because I believe at the end of episode 2, they were leaving the island, or they're leaving that planet after their mission. And this is episode 4. You're right, we're a quarter of the season in, and we still don't know what the hell is going on. So this episode was unnecessary. I felt this was kind of a filler. It wasn't a great episode. Visually, it looked great. Sound-wise, it sounded great. It sounded like Star Wars. It looked like Star Wars, but this episode was not needed.
Very fair assessment, Milton. What about you, Ben?
yeah. I mean, those are like really good points for both of you guys. I think one of my I'll start out with the positive side of things first before I get into the more critical side. I don't know about you guys, but man, whoever played the villain of this episode, like that voice actor, like was made to play a villain.
Yeah,
he was made to play a
great.
villain of a show because like he just nailed it. Like that's everything I'd imagine like a villain sounding like. He just played it perfectly. I don't know who it was, but hats off to the actor that played the villain in this episode because every time he was on screen, my ears were perked up because it was like this guy like commands like the presence of the room basically.
Yeah, and I love the fact. Let me interject. I love the fact that they chose to do a Duwitin or whatever, like the sequel trilogy design, like that. They are a cool, like imposing alien race, species, whatever. And then the fact that he had his goons with him, he had like the Gamorrean with the blaster. I loved like that little crew. And I could see them almost being like the pseudo allies, especially at the end of the episode, like giving them like a nice little warning. Like I could see like them teaming up at least at some point. But go on, Ben.
Yeah, I hope so because I really really like that villain a lot. And then of course, like you mentioned, Chris, like the allusions to Phantom Menace were cool and everything. And then the visuals are always on point. Like you can't knock this show on visuals whatsoever. Like it's beautiful visuals. It's great. And to me, like you said, that's pretty much where our positive talk stops about this episode because it's another side mission. And to me, it's like my favorite character of the show is overall is Omega, and it's like they're just kind of like messing her character up, where it's like they're not having her progress anymore. It's like kind of just like I understand she's still like 14, 15 or whatever, but
I agree. I agree
but
with that.
she should be maturing some like she shouldn't be like, she should still have some young tendencies to her, of course, but still, you know what I mean, Milton. Like she should
Listen, there's no
be.
way she said, because literally I thought the same thing. I'm thinking, why the hell would they let her talk and put Sid in that situation? Because if I'm Sid, I'm yoking her up. Like, stop talking.
Yeah,
There's no like, oh, we gotta help Sid. Or I'm like, no, let her
yeah,
go. She's been playing y'all the whole time. And I will say, and I'll let you finish. I will say probably the best thing about this episode was the villain, because even at the end when he didn't let old boy shoot them, he said, you know what, that was loyalty, blah blah blah. He's like, but she ain't gonna show that, so watch your back. And I'm thinking, about time somebody said it,
Yeah.
because we all know Sid's kind of sketchy.
hopefully, I really hope, please let that be the planting of the seed in the Bad Batch's head, where they're like, maybe we should ditch this Sid lady eventually. Like, I
Yeah.
hope that's what it's leading to. I really do. Um, and then yeah, so that's kind of like where my positive points of this episode stop, though. But to me, the negative points are obviously all the points that you both mentioned. But I'm at a point, this may sound like blasphemous or something, but I'm at a point, I'm just doing the whole Pontius Pilate, washing my hands of the whole thing. Like,
What?
I think Dave Filoni shouldn't be doing this show anymore. I think he needs to just let somebody else do it and let them tell their own story. Because, like, I'm at a point, I think Dave is stretched too thin. Like, I'm going to give my bullet point ideas for you guys to handle, and then I'm going to handle Ahsoka and the Mandalorian live action shows. I'm at a point, like, I just think, because Dave shouldn't do everything. Like, no creator should do everything, in my opinion. Like, I don't care what franchise it is, Marvel, DC, whatever. Like, I don't think one creator should have such a big influence. And I'm at a point, like, it's hurting the quality of the show just to have like his name stamped on it. And to me, it's like, I think they just need to let someone else to handle the show altogether. Like, if they somehow do a season 3 of this show, like, I just don't think Dave should be involved. Just let someone else do it. Let them tell their own story. Because we had other people tell stories in Star Wars before. JJ told a fine story in Force Awakens. Like, we've had, and Jon Favreau wrote so much of The Mandalorian. Like, he knows how to tell stories. Like, let somebody else do the Bad Batch. Like, there's, hell, like, to me, if you're gonna do animation stuff, bring in Gendy Tartakovsky. Have him come in and do Bad Batch. Like just anybody. Like, I'm just done with Dave being involved with this show, because I think it's hurting the quality, because it's stretching it thin. So, like, he's putting in a good effort on Ahsoka and the Mandalorian and Book of Boba is what it was. But then it's like, it's kind of like, is he just stretching the quality thin on the Bad Batch? Because there's 16 episodes, and it's clear Dave still has the quality in him, because the Tales of the Jedi show was amazing. We all loved it. So to me, it's like, is this kind of your, like you mentioned, Milton, about Ryan Johnson, is this kind of your, really smart kid just not studying and putting in the effort on one show? And I think that's what we're getting with this show.
Yeah, I hate
Yeah,
to
this
break.
epi-
Oh, go ahead, Melon.
this episode I'll never watch again.
Yeah, I also said the same thing. I said there's no reason to really watch this again.
there's no
Yep.
there's no reason to even entertain it, because it does nothing to move the narrative.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
And pretty much it pretty much something that you complained about last year, Ben. And Chris, you might have been on the same train with him, but like not Ahsoka, Omega, her growth, like, and I know
Yeah.
you said Omega's your favorite character, right, Ben? And
Yeah, and I don't like her growth so far.
but her growth has been just god awful. It's been both horrible and awful, aka horror awful, especially like I said, with this same episode, because it's like, what are you doing? Like, honest to God, you had such a good episode 3. Build off of that, and then come back with something like this. Don't sit there and like it's like they get us to a point where they're like, oh, we're gonna pull them in, stop, pull them in, stop doing that. Just stop with that. Keep telling the story, and it's, again, I'm gonna use a wrestling analogy. anytime you have the pay-per-view creme de la creme match of the pay-per-view, you have a whole bunch of good matches, and then before you get the crowd hyped up, then you do that let me up match where it's kind of like, oh, it's an okay match. Let's get the crowd down so we can get them hyped up. We haven't even been there yet. We have not once been built up to where we're so excited, saying, oh my God, I got to see the next episode. Then let us come down. We haven't even done that yet. It's been just this weird roller coaster where it's like, okay, I don't know how to feel about the show.
Yeah,
Well,
so
Milton, that was like like you said with your wrestling analogies. That was like back in this last year. I mean, I think it was like WrestleMania or whatever it was. Like you had like Pat McAfee like fighting around with Austin Theory, and then
Yes.
Stone Cold comes out. Like it builds up and builds up and builds up to that like hype. Like, and this show, it like has hype, and then it literally just looks at a cliff and says, "Let's go 100 mile an hour and drive off of it." Like, I just don't get it.
yeah, as far as your previous statement, Ben, I never got the idea that Dave Filoni was ever really that involved with this show. I think it was like the same thing with Star Wars Resistance, where he kind of like sketched like the idea, like, "Hey, I have an idea for a show. Um, here, if you want to write this, go ahead. Here's my like real basic draft of it. Have fun with it, and just fill in the blanks." I feel like that's the case because I got the idea that at Celebration because I think he like introduced like Corbett and Brad Rao, the writers, and then he like walked off the stage. Like it wasn't like about him at all. So that's why I really got
Okay.
the feeling where it's like you might think he stretches, but I really don't think he has much of like a direction because he is so busy with the other things at this point.
Yeah.
So he can't be everywhere,
You're
and I
getting you're
agree.
getting my point though. If he was, he shouldn't be. That was my
Mm-hmm.
point.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
that makes more sense than yeah. Okay, so like then if anything, let me amend my statement. Then like they need to definitely reassess who's working on the show. Like not calling for anybody's jobs or anything because it is an animated show and not a live action whatever. But like they definitely need to like either reassess consult with the story group more maybe, or just I don't know, just something like because to me it's just wild. Like not even comparing it to live action, it's wild the quality difference between this and Tales of the Jedi. Like it's just two different stratospheres.
X. And here's the thing: I was the biggest rider of most of the animation except for Resistance and obviously some of this show. And I've always said the animation for Star Wars have been pretty consistently good. I've always been on that
Rebels,
train. Rebels, like I've always been on that train, especially that first two seasons of Rebels. I was like, that's a masterpiece when it comes to like writing animation. And then it's like
Mm-hmm.
again, like they get in these weird funks. I'm thinking, okay, hey, I mean, who am I? I mean, I have to trust these people, and hopefully the show gets consistently better.
I just
Right now, I only like one episode of four, and that's sad.
Yeah, it's interesting. Because we know they take forever to like make animation, right? Isn't it like a 2 or 3 year leadway from like when they do the voice acting to when it actually comes out? It's a long time.
it's usually longer than even live action.
So they by the time they were doing season two, like season one probably wasn't even out yet, honestly. So they
Yeah.
probably didn't get any feedback at all from like external like audiences of like how they enjoyed season one. So they just assumed that people were enjoying season one. So if anything, I don't think unless it gets to season three, and I'm
Right. But
trepidatious
my thing is
if
though,
that's
but you're
happening.
honest. I mean, look, I'm just saying. You're telling me if we were writers in that room or creators, and we
True.
knew if we knew Dave like that, we're sitting there and somehow we're in the meeting and someone says, "Hey man, I got a story, an idea for an episode four." I'm like, "Okay, what is it?" And we get this particular idea. I know I'm going to say, we just wrote a strong episode three. Why don't we just continue off that story, and then we can put this episode like somewhere at the late of the season, just keep
Okay.
people like relaxed and hyped up for the last quarter of the season. Because I'd question this. I'm like, this makes no sense. Why, narrative wise, what is this doing?
I think the
Like,
way I think the way you make this episode work, like say if we're like in a if we're sitting there at the writers room for this show, I think the way you make it work is you have to have some connective tissue. Like sure, let's just say we keep the same Sid mission, whatever, but you have to have some connective tissue to the bigger story. Like I don't know, have an old clone trooper there, like someone we don't even know, just
Huh.
clone trooper 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like just some old clone trooper there, and maybe the Bad Batch recognizes him as a clone trooper, and it's like your old kind of like the guy that was on the farm before.
Oh yeah,
You
yeah.
know, kind of like
Cut.
it, kind
the
of something
flame.
like that. Like maybe have something like that. Maybe have an old clone trooper there, so it's a connective tissue, or maybe have the bad guy at the end. Like, of course, we all know Sid's sketchy, but maybe have the bad guy at the end have a connection.
The
I don't know,
Empire.
to the Empire, or like you
So
have to have some type of connective tissue. This episode, there's not even anything to look
uh,
on to go, oh man, maybe there's this or that. There's nothing.
yeah, I agree with that. So this is what I was actually thinking was going to happen because whenever a guy blocked him from shooting him and he said what he said about Sid, I was thinking he was going to then like do like at the end of the scene or end of the episode where like he would call on his communicator and say, "Hey, I spotted these clones,
Yeah.
whatever. Like hit my contact up in the Empire." Like I was thinking he was going to do something like that, or what they could have done is cut away from like the characters throughout the episode to some like shadowy figure watching them the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Because and again, the race because when the guy kept saying tech is this who's this tech guy like when the announcer was making fun of him,
Yeah.
I'm thinking, well, someone has to hear this name,
Mm-hmm.
someone has to be in the crowd from the Empire. Like I'm sure the Empire knows about these races, I'm sure they know about this Clone Force 99. So if they're hearing his name, oh my god, it's one of the 99 clones, let me hit my boy up real quick, like let me
Mm.
call the Empire. Like they, they,
Here's
they
something
could they
for
could
you.
have tied it into that.
Here's something for you. Why not just pull a Boba Fett from Mandalorian, where you have the so like go with your shadowy figure idea, and we technically don't know how much time passed between episode 3 and episode 4 of this show.
Oh yeah.
So why not just have the shadowy figure be Commander Cody? Because obviously he would have heard about the Bad Batch while he worked for the Empire. Why
That's,
not have him kind of tracking the guys down in the
Uh,
background, and then us as an audience, I don't know, see like part of his glove where you're like, oh shit, that's Cody or something, at the end.
mm-hmm.
Like, you could do something like that. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's plenty of ideas that they could have done, but they chose to go the direction they went.
Yeah. So we could be here for a while,
Yeah.
just talking about ways it can get better, ways it could have been different. But until we know next week, we'll see what happens. But if the episodes continue to be like this, then don't expect hour 2 hour long reviews on the channel about these episodes because frankly, if we're not given much to talk about, we'll just talk about something else for a greater amount of time. And I mean that's as fair as I want to make it because I mean if it's pretty shallow, we're not going to be able to glean a lot from it. And it's fun to watch, but I'm at the point where Star Wars has shown us that they could do really great things in animation. They've done it in this very season,
yep.
so I know it's got potential. And
A
that's
week
just
ago.
frustrating about it. So I'll just give my score. I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10. I'm not gonna make this a complete failure, because everything else artistically about this is great. And we always keep saying it. It looks great, sounds great. From a technical perspective, it's leading the charge in animation. It's just the story is really lacking at this point, so I can't give it higher than a 5 out of 10. Milton?
Ugh. Yeah, I mean, you know what? I have to go 5 out of 10. I think that's probably the most fair score I can give you, and that's mainly because the way it looks and how it sounded.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think it's fair to say that visually, like this is some of the best animation I've ever seen in my life. It,
Mm-hmm.
it keeps getting better. Again, the sound is awesome. I love what I like Tech. I like his character. It was
Mm-hmm.
cool. I like seeing Tech and Wrecker just do what they do. I think those particular characters were very much who they were and very consistent. This episode was not watchable in the sense of I'll never watch it again. So I'll probably skip this episode if I had to go back and rewatch this. If any of my friends ever asked me, hey, what episode should I start to watch on Bad Batch? This wouldn't be one of them. So yeah, I'll go 5 out of 10. I mean, it could have easily been a 4.5.
All right. 5-5, Ben, where are you going to land on this one?
Yeah, I mean, we've listed all of our critiques and likes. Like for me, I just think the show, luckily, hopefully this is our lowest point of the season. Maybe this is our worst moment of the season, so it can only maybe go up from here,
Mm-hmm.
I would say. But yeah, I just think the show needs to improve in a lot of different departments, but at least the visuals are on point. The voice actor was really good for the villain in this week. Like I said, I hope maybe they do more with his character, or even just he's just a really good voice actor, so that was cool. And then I don't know, I hope they improve Omega's character. Like I said, she's my favorite character of the series, and it's like, man, they keep like standing her on the fence of, okay, is she going to be like an effective character, like
Yep.
more toward young or more toward like an upper teenager, like a 16, 17, 18 range, where like more mature, or you can have more naivety, like she's like a 9-year-old or something, like, too trusting of people, like that sort of stuff. So it's just like, what direction are they taking Omega is my question for the series moving forward. And it's just like, hopefully they improve her character more, and hopefully it's not like more of this balancing act. And then also just the thing as well, like with Sid, of course we're all just annoyed as can be about her character, but I'm tired of her character being the plot device that gets the entire missions into like into motion. Like, there should be something else that drives the missions versus Sid basically being the narrator of the episode, just starting the show for us. Like, it should be just anything else. Like, I don't know, like the guys getting a call from Rex or Cody, or are just hearing about destruction on another planet. Like, it shouldn't just be Sid sending them out on missions, because like that's kind of like our generic, like, you know what I mean, like narrator giving us the basic intro to the episode. Like I don't know, I just hope they go away from the model of Sid being the intro of the episode each week. But yeah, I mean, like you said, the episode wasn't a total disaster. Like the quality is still there visually and sound design wise. So I gotta agree with you guys. I gotta give it a 5 out of 10.
There you go. So, what are your thoughts on the Bad Batch Season 2 so far? Let us know in the comment section down below, and always tweet at us and everything else. We'll go over that information at the end, how to reach us. But finally, we're going to get into another thing to review and discuss, and specifically break down. We're talking about the Mandalorian Season 3. I'm calling this the final trailer, because they usually only get 2 trailers. This aired during Monday Night Football in the U.S. First thoughts on this, Ben? Just overall thoughts, reaction. How was your experience watching this? Did you watch it while you're watching the show? Did you watch it on YouTube after the fact? Just kind of walk us through your experience, man.
Oh, I watched it live while watching Monday Night Football. Like it's always so exciting. Like for Star Wars fans and sports fans alike, it's always a nice feeling. Like when the trailers are debuting during something we really like, like I love the NFL. So the fact that like it's consistent, Star Wars trailers, unless they drop like at an event, like a celebration or something like that, or a 9 a.m. random Friday, like a lot of times these bigger trailers, they put them on Monday Night Football. And, it's really cool because the way Monday Night Football's production does it, for anyone who doesn't know, ESPN's owned by Disney. So it's really neat. So like every commercial break, for anybody that watched the game, every commercial break, they would go and have basically every commercial break, you'd hear the Mandalorian, the dun 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 dun, like the little
yeah.
Mando theme for every commercial break. So it was always just really cool just seeing and hearing like the little Mando tunes like leading into the commercial break. So like, them saying, "Oh, one more break until the Mando trailer. One more break. It's so cool just hearing like the football people talk about it like that, like getting excited to see the trailer as well. And then of course, like my initial reaction to it was like I was just so hyped about it. And also, it brings back memories. Like the Rise of Skywalker trailer premiered on a Monday Night Football game, like, the final one for that one did as well. And that was so hyped because you had the Phantom Menace, the Duel of the Fates on that trailer. So like, you have cool precedents of the trailer getting debuted like that. And the fact they put it on such a big game this week, it was really cool. And yeah, I really, really liked the trailer. Like I thought it was really good. Of course you have some like repeat shots. As always, that's just the Disney model. But the new shots they gave us were so good. and it just brings up the hype. Like, as John Campy always says, like, does it increase your excitement for the show? Yes or no? And yes, so it did its job for me. And yeah, I'm super excited for the show, and like, it's just one of those moments. I know people are excited for the show. Like when I get random texts from people saying, "Man, I want the Mandalorian to be here right now." Like,
Yep.
you're getting talk like that. So like, people are hyped for the show when you hear people say stuff like that.
Yeah.
So those are my opening thoughts.
Yeah, it's really interesting about the build up and the breaks, and like you said, it brings back nostalgia, even though it's only been a couple of years. About, oh yeah, it's another big Star Wars reveal on a football night. Here we go, Milton. Over to you. What were your initial impressions here?
I didn't get to watch it until I think the next day,
Mm-hmm.
and I watched it when I woke up, so I didn't really. I need to watch it again. I ain't gonna lie, so I need to absorb it some more. So my initial thoughts, it looked good. It's a good looking trailer. I
Yeah.
mean, look, I want to see the show. I like the show. It's really good. It hasn't been disappointing. It hasn't really been bad at all. Um, I like where they're going with it. I know that he's mentioned he want to go back to Mandalore to see, and it was cool. They showed a shot of Mandalore that was dope.
Hmm.
I guess what it looks like now. It was nice to see what the Jedi Temple what was going on in the Jedi
Hmm.
Temple. Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what the show's all about. Again, the trailer looked good. I need to rewatch it again and actually see it with like my eyes being like fully clear because I was not watching it during Monday Night Football because I was already sleeping in bed. Like I'll just keep it real with y'all. Like I get up every day early, so
Yep.
and I had to go to work the next day. So I wish I would have watched it later that night, but I'm glad I didn't because I do want to go into this season a little more surprised.
Okay.
Because I loved how season 2 ended.
Hmm.
So yeah, I'm hyped for this. I'm sure the trailer did its job. For what I saw, it did its job. I'll just go back and rewatch it again.
There you go. Yeah, as far as for me, as I was talking in the lead up to the show, I was like, oh yeah, let's not get fooled. You know, the second trailers are never anything like super amazing or spectacular because and like I said, I kind of expected, halfway through the trailer we're still getting those same shots. It's like, oh, here we go again. This is a typical Disney Star Wars trailer, Disney Plus Star Wars trailer. But then it did reveal something nice about Coruscant and Jedi and tie interceptors. We're gonna get into all that. I've clipped out a couple screenshots we're gonna look at here in a few moments. We're not gonna go over the entire trailer because, like I just said, half the trailer we had already talked about essentially with the different shots. But what I will say is this trailer did a good job at establishing expectations of what we can look forward to in this season. Really great dialogue from Din Djarin, the Mandalorian himself. I'll recite it word by word here. So basically, he's talking about his people. You know, being a Mandalorian is not just learning about how to fight. You have to learn how to navigate the galaxy. That way, you'll never be lost. He's also saying our people are scattered like stars in the galaxy. What are we? What do we stand for? Like, this is very introspective for Din Djarin, who is alone. You know, the title of the Mandalorian, like the official synopsis was like a lone gunslinger making his way in the galaxy. Like, this is a guy that just cares about himself, making money. That's it. And now through season 1 and 2 and through Book of Boba Fett, he has completely 180'd around. He finds his people, they're scattered, and now he's seeming like he's got the mentality of a leader. And could Mando be Mandalore by the end of season 3? I think that's a very good possibility. The fact he's going back to uh, the world of Mandalore itself, burned in the flames, seeing the past in his hands with helmets and everything else. It's like, wow, this is a Mando that has gone through some character development, and we get to see him as somebody that was just not like a guy in a suit that's just like not interesting. Like he's building this arc and he's becoming his own person essentially, even though we don't really see his face like 99% of the time. So we got that cool factor there. We're going into the trailer. Okay, we're gonna get the reunification of Mandalore and all the characters that are surviving. Maybe it looks like Bo-Katan and him. Maybe they're not gonna. Maybe she's not gonna be a villain. Maybe they will team up. Paz Vizsla, the armor, all of them. Um, but then we also get a little bit of great dialogue. It was great to see Carson Teva of the New Republic He's saying there's something dangerous happening out there, and it's, by the time everybody figures it out, it won't be enough time to act. So there's that really cool tease to where it's like, ooh, he's the one guy that has this feeling there's something going out there. I think he's referring to Thrawn and his secret fleet. So we're getting these two different storylines in this single season of Mandalorian. Maybe something else they're hiding from. Maybe there's a whole nother storyline they're hiding from us. They did a great job. Well, maybe not the best job of hiding the characters from last season that we already knew about, but so far they're keeping a lid on this upcoming season very, very tightly. But I was happy to kind of bring this up to a close before we get into the single shots here. I was happy to really get a solid direction. I think more so than we've ever gotten from any other like Mandoverse trailer. I don't know if you guys kind of got the same vibe that I did.
I mean, he literally says we're going to Mandalore. I'm pretty sure in the trailer, like he talks about going there. So like, it literally puts a stamp on like our speculation. Like, oh, is he for sure going to Mandalore? And so that's definitely happening. And then it also connects to like my discovery from like a month ago, when I was around Christmas time or early December when I was watching Mando season 2, the Bo-Katan episode, when she talks about like, she talks about him like helping her like retake, help him retake a planet or however she describes it, like whatever dialogue she uses when she first starts talking with Mando. It's like, oh, so like they're really talking about like the wider Star Wars galaxy here, and then like even she talks about a fleet, like that sort of stuff. Like, so it just makes you wonder what we're gonna end up seeing, because it's just like where are we going with these characters? Because like obviously Bo-Katan's gonna be a big part of this season too, just because it's like this is a bunch of Mandalorian. I'm sure we're gonna get other Mandalorians, like more of those like the side ones, we saw in Mando season 2, guys. Like I can't think of the names, like the girl that was with Bo, and like we're gonna get those other Mandalorians, I'm sure, in this season, and I just can't wait to see it, because I'm sure it's gonna be like a crazy cool visual.
Heck yeah. So we're going to dive into some of these newer shots that we haven't seen from trailer number 1. The first one here is a good establishing shot of just a bunch of Mandalorians walking around on this hilly landscape. This signifies, hey, they're not going to be always on the volume. Obviously, this is out there, probably in the hills of California. Maybe this is depicting the planet Mandalore itself, but it's cool to just see that there's a crew of Mandalorians just walking around together.
Oh yeah, like I just mentioned, it's gonna be great getting to see these Mandalorians, like what they're doing here, what's taking place, because I feel like that's gonna be something. It's got to be something like them, like I don't know, investigating something on Mandalore. You know what I mean? It's gonna be them like probably snooping around or something along those lines. Just because it's like what else would they be doing? Because we have to figure out what conflict is on Mandalore. Like, is it going to be Imperials? Is it going to be like hostiles just taking it? Or, it's got to be, there's got to be some type of enemy on Mandalore for our Mandalorians and Din and Bo-Katan.
Thinking maybe they'll bring back the Death Watch.
Oh yeah, unless it's actually other Mandalorians. Yeah, the Death Watch. That's a good point, Milton.
Yeah, the classic blue hues of the Mandalorian armor signifying there you go. So this next shot here, I feel like every time we revisit Navarro, it gets grander and grander, which is just such a cool element, right? It's almost like a video game or something. It's like, hey, every time you return to that town, it's leveled up essentially. And we hear the backstory of Navarro. It's like one of the last holdouts for the Imperials in the war. And we see it in disarray in the first season. In the second season, they like built up like a school, and Grogu's learning and stealing cookies from other students. And then this third season, as you see in this shot here, it's full of life, full of characters in the foreground, the background. I feel like they've built up, unless this is a completely different city. It could be. I'm just assuming this is Navarro, since it's where it looks like the same kind of place that he finds Grief Karga, who is the magistrate of that place. So yeah, it's pretty neat just seeing the evolution if this is Navarro.
No, I mean, it looks good. I mean, if it is, it looks fire. I mean, I even like the opening shot, or excuse me, one of the shots with Grief Karga. I mean, how it looked from the background, it looked pretty dope. So yeah, I assume this is what it is.
Yeah, I saw a list earlier in the week, guys. I don't remember if it was from Best Bulletin or somewhere else, but they were talking. It sounds like Carl Weathers is going to be directing another episode this year too. So I bet you, if he is directing one, it's the Navarro one is probably his episode. I would say, like, he's probably just like leveling up his directing game, if so. And it's probably, I don't know. I feel like with the Navarro episodes, it's got to be something along the lines of, like, almost Din's like checkpoint, if that makes sense. It's going to be like, hey, we're here for something, and it's going to be like kind of that pushing point for the story. Like, hey, like Din's looking for something, and then like Grief Karga is going to be like, hey, go here. You know what I mean? It's like your video game checkpoint. You know what I mean, Chris? Like, it's like something like that. I feel like.
Mm-hmm. Next shot here, as Milton said before, we get to see a ruined look at none other than Mandalore, Sundari itself, that big, beautiful oval that was protecting the last remnants of the Mandalorian people after all the wars that devastated the planet into a nuclear holocaust. Essentially, I believe that's the lore. Like, they just had these massive weapons that just like destroyed the entire. As you see in Rebels and Clone Wars, like you can see the outside of Sundari. It's like a wasteland. But now it definitely is a wasteland after we see all those TIE bombers in that flashback in the Book of Boba Fett bombing this thing to smithereens. So I'm very curious to see the after effects of what a ruined Mandalore looks like. And I'll get into more speculation as we get closer to one of the last shots in here about what could happen to maybe the people of this planet. But yeah, thoughts on this?
This is my favorite shot of the
Oh,
whole trailer. It's just cool seeing like Mandalore. I mean, it's just we saw it in the animation how dope it looked, but see it in live action. I'm curious what it looks like at a more intimate scale.
mm-hmm.
Oh, for sure. Like that's one of my favorite things too about this, Milton, is like it's kind of like what I mentioned earlier about, like, oh man, that's Ahsoka coming to live action. Like, we can't believe it. Like, seeing these certain characters come to Bo-Katan come to live action. Like, now we're getting an actual Mandalore, the planet, coming to live action. Like, this is like, what a time to be a Star Wars fan. Like, whenever I see these, like, of course the animated projects are cool and everything, but whenever I see these live action projects, it's like, guys, like, could you imagine like 10 years ago they told us we'd be getting animated adaptations of Mandalore, of Bo-Katan, of these characters in live action? Like, it's so cool seeing like the planet of Mandalore come to life now.
Oh yeah, it's just this. This is the great part about having Dave Filoni at the helm
Yep.
here. Is he's the perfect person to usher in, and he has the eye. He's an artist of course himself, so he sees the eye of how he can transition these things, which is so beneficial to this whole thing. All right, this next shot here, we have a confirmation of at least a visit, whether it's a short visit or a little bit longer, back to Tatooine. See Pelamoto, see a pit droid. We see the new Naboo starfighter of Din Djarin. But the very interesting thing here, I don't know if you guys caught this, so we have none other than the R5 that had the messed up motivator in A New Hope in the docking bay, whatever socket of the Naboo starfighter. So apparently they removed Grogu's little humble abode seat there with the little glass dome he's in, and they put him there. And I believe we got Grogu that's just going to be sitting on the lap of Mando. So it just begs the question. It's like, like why do they need a droid? Well, okay, what's a droid going to do for the Naboo starfighter? They're getting somewhere. They need a droid to get the code to go in. Or I don't know, but I mean, there's a lot of cool things. I'm just happy we're gonna go to Tatooine, so I hope we get to see Black Krrsantan. I hope we get to see Boba Fett kind of catch up with what those guys are doing.
I mean, I honestly I didn't even care for this scene. I don't remember even seeing that particular robot. So all the stuff you mentioned, I did again. I looked at this briefly in the middle of the night, so I must have missed this scene.
Yeah, I think with this one, there's a good chance of this being potentially the first episode of the series. I think. Like, what if
Oh,
we ended off Book of Boba Fett with Mando flying off, but what if what if there's a malfunction with the ship? Like, or I mean, heck, maybe it's not the first episode. Maybe it's 2 episodes in or 3 episodes in, you know, because as we've known from these trailers, like the Book of Boba Fett trailer, for example, we covered that trailer, I think, in the first 2 episodes of the
Yep.
series, or maybe 3. So like this is either episode 1 or episode 2, I would say. And it's probably just going to be because Din's having some type of ship issues. Oh, hey, I mean, Chris, maybe this is a thing. What if it's Carson Teva, like, fires on Din or something for some reason? And maybe there's your answer of why they need a droid. Like, because it's got to be something like that, like the Naboo starfighter gets damaged. And then I think her, like, that actress or that woman, I think her saying like "May the Force be with you." Like, I think that's the last time we're probably going to see her in this season. Whenever that scene happens, that's probably the last time we go to Tatooine. But like you mentioned, there's probably a good chance we get a Boba Fett visit as well in this show. Just because it's going to probably mirror the Book of Boba Fett a little bit. I doubt they'll commit 2 episodes to Tatooine. I really doubt that, but I think it'll be at least 1.
Yeah. Yeah, at least just a little bit to tie things in to the Book of Boba Fett. All right, this is the money shot, everybody. This is the shot that got me to sit up in my seat as I was watching this trailer. I wanted to see if the rumors were true. We had heard from the Brazilian Comic-Con that they had seen glimpses of what could have been Coruscant, and I don't think you could say a city like this and say it's not Coruscant, because this looks exactly like the Coruscant that we've seen at the end of Return of the Jedi, that big celebration there. This shot really reminds me of, like, oh yeah, you've seen the statue of Palpatine falling. Of course, we've seen some nighttime shots in the prequels of Coruscant, but I went right to Return of the Jedi because that's the era that this is in, and I just got super excited. We're in the middle of a Coruscant renaissance here, everybody. Whether it be Tales of the Jedi, whether it be Andor, whether it be the upcoming episode for the Bad Batch. Now this, we had a little bit of a shot in Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's like Lucasfilm has heard the pleas and the cries of the fans across the galaxy saying, we want to see Coruscant. And, well, they've gave us a large heaping of that over the last year or so. So I'm so excited to see where this goes, because there's so much potential. I mean, all of us have read the Aftermath trilogy. The last we heard of Coruscant in this era is it's a desolate wasteland. As we know, the decommissioned the Republic or the Rebellion Army at this point. They don't even have a base on Coruscant. Everything is now on, where is it? Hosnian Prime, I think.
Hosnian Prime.
Hosnian Prime.
Or
It gets blown up.
Chandrilla. It's either Chandrilla at this point, or it could be Hosnian Prime by now. One of the two. The capital is no longer on Coruscant. So I'm just very curious to see, like, what kind of individuals are here. If the government's not here, that means this place is probably even rowdier than it was before, not just to the lower levels, maybe everywhere. Looking at the next shot here will give us more of an idea. We have the scientist from both seasons of The Mandalorian, the same guy that wanted the blood of Grogu, Dr. Pershing. The one with the Camino patch on his arm is in one of these classic speeders that we've seen plenty of times in the prequel trilogy. So, Milton, just tell me your thoughts on seeing a familiar location that I know you've been also excited to see in this era of Star Wars.
I mean, it's always nice to get this planet. I've been saying it forever. They should have been putting this in the sequel trilogy. I mean, because it's a planet that's universally loved. I don't know anyone that likes Star Wars that would say that Coruscant's garbage. And for us to get a planet, I mean, look, I loved every time for Andor, when we were on this planet, I was stuck to the TV. It was always the best part of the storytelling.
Yep.
So, like, with this, I mean, like, Coruscant ain't no garbage ass planet. Like, it's an important planet to Star Wars. So you have to make it important throughout your whole entire series, because that's the center of the universe. Still at this point.
Ben?
Yeah. I mean, you have to see, I think part of it too, like you mentioned, Milton, the lack of Coruscant with the sequels. I think some of this stuff has to be like fan feedback. Like, of course, Dave and John, I feel like they have a general idea of, like, they can read the room for all intents and purposes on the fandom, I would say. And I think they read the room on that feedback, and they were probably like, we need some type of planet for whatever our story is, and Coruscant fit the mold for that storyline. So, or whatever overall storyline they're telling here, and we'll get into a little bit more of the Coruscant stuff here in a bit. And like, I think with that, I think that's what made them decide to put that in there. It just has to be feedback. And then, of course, you mentioned Chris, like with some of the like the way the planet is now compared to where it was then, like back during its prime years. Like, it's going to be really interesting to see, for one, obviously what's going on there, and for two, though, what's the reason Den and Grogu are potentially going to be there or potentially be involved on that planet?
Yeah, I mean, Dr. Pershing, we think he's going to be connected to maybe some cloning, obviously, with the Camino patch. It was very interesting. So I was going back and I was watching for one of the season 2 episode called The Siege today. I was doing some research for Star Wars Legion. I was looking up characters in the background for shore troopers. I was like, oh, are they part of the Imperial Remnant? It had something to do with like a question I was doing on the Legion forum. Anyway, so I was watching the episode and it got to the point where they showed like the creature thing in the tank at that outpost, and I was listening to the dialogue extra closely, and they're like, "Oh, the blood is not taking to this particular organic body. We have to figure something else out." I'm just like, "Oh my gosh, this is not Snoke. Then I don't know what the hell this is." Like, there's so much interesting stuff about that scene from season 2 with like whatever the heck that experiment in the tank was, and the Grogu's blood and all that kind of thing. So I mean, we've seen it, the first trailer of Dr. Pershing. He's walking with somebody else through like this hallway. I was like, "Oh, is this the Mount Tantus factory or something like that?" But he's going to Coruscant now. Maybe he's gonna go and he's gonna find the Zillo Beast from the Clone Wars. He's gonna draw blood from the Zillo Beast and make some crazy concoction. I don't know, but that thing has to come up eventually. But no, seriously, I think it's interesting, and I like the kind of vibes it gives off, like this espionage kind of like behind closed doors, like dealings like on this planet, you know.
Yeah, I
Oh yeah.
mean, look, I like this character. I mean, I think I'm gonna like this character as we see him in this season. Hopefully, he's more interesting. I think he will be more interesting. I think we'll flush him out more.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He has like to me it's like the likability of why am I blanking on Jin's dad? He has the likability of him. Like Galen Erso.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's kind of like that situation where he seems like he's like a nice, like I don't know, like the actor that's playing Dr. Pershing is doing a really good job. Like whenever he's on screen, it's like you're always listening to what he's having to say.
yeah. I'm talking about Coruscant and the overall scope of the Mandalorian. I'm digging this because okay, season 1. It was a great show as far as like what it did with pushing the boundaries of what we know as like making really cinematic style TV that would look like the quality of the movies because of volume and all that. In season 2, it kind of increases that. You got the stuff that's awesome with the big sandworm, the big thing in the beginning. Not the Sarlacc pit, the Great Dragon, like that stuff was amazing. The scale increased. You're dealing with the town and all that. I mean, season 3, they're dealing with going to Coruscant. So you look at those adventures of the small time adventures where you had like a couple people in like one episode, and now we're looking at this future season of Mando, and it really, the world has completely opened up to this show. That's what I like about it, is that at first it seems insignificant. Oh, you're just following this little Mandalorian. He's just going around the galaxy trying to make a living. Now we're dealing with like almost the fate of the entire galaxy. If what we think is going to happen is going to happen with the Strawn conflict and everything else. Now the Empire, there's a lot bigger of an empire. It's not this little Imperial remnant. There's word of all this other stuff happening. This Mandalorian civil war that could possibly happening if Bo-Katan goes against Din Djarin. So I'm really liking the care and the detail and the build up, and the ratcheting up of the tension that Dave and John have done. And I can't help but wonder, like, oh, no wonder why this show took like 2.5 years to come out. They've probably been just working on the visual effects for how good Coruscant looks right now. I mean, come on, it looks just as good as the movies. You got all the sky car traffic, the lights. Like, I can't imagine how long it takes for them to make this and how much money it must have costed, you know?
It's gonna be fire.
Oh yeah, I can't wait. It's gonna be like that's one thing. We're always locked into the Mandalorian, of course, or any of the especially the live action shows. You're always locked into the episodes, but this is the one episode for sure, or probably multi-episode. Like these are the Coruscant ones. We'll be really locked into. Like the Tatooine one, sure, we'd be like, oh, maybe glance down at your phone when they're walking on a sand dune or something. Like the Coruscant ones, you're gonna be locked into, I would say.
Yeah. Here we go. We have Carson Teva. I'm liking how this guy's getting so much of the spotlight. I think it is to deal with Cara Dune, honestly. If she wasn't in that situation, this would probably be her on the screen instead of him, honestly. But I love what this actor's done. He's really adding that threat, like, hey, look, like, you guys got to pay attention. There's something going on out here. I like how we see him in a new costume. He's not just in a rebel pilot costume, more respectable. He's got some kind of patch. I would not be surprised if that patch signifies that he's a Ranger of the New Republic.
Yeah, he's been in the show, right? I'll be honest with you. When I saw it, I'm like, who was this?
We've never.
He was the space cop. Remember, he was the one that basically pulled Din over.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I have no opinion of this because I forgot who he was. Like, I'm sorry.
Well, part of the problem is, like, I don't think we've seen him without a helmet on. Or there might have been like one scene, but he was in that X-Wing pilot costume with probably a longer beard, so he did look a little bit different than the last time we've seen him. So I mean, it's not, yeah. So here we go. Oh, go ahead, Ben.
Oh, go on, Chris.
I was just gonna go to the next image here because we have an image of this ancient helmet of Mandalore that I would assume is Din picking this up, and call me crazy, whatever, but I think this is like the original helmet of like Mandalore the Great or something like that. I feel like this is a really significant moment in Din Djarin's journey, and he might actually like, this might be like him picking up the mantle of Mandalore. Like he goes into the caves, he gets this helmet, and this helmet has a significance to unite the people all around. There's no more infighting. Everybody just joins together and they make a new Mandalore or something of that decree. Or it could just be like, hey, there's just this old helmet. Cool. All right. And just tosses it aside.
I think what it is, it's going to be something like that. It'll be maybe an old helmet, but I think we might get the whole, Star Wars always has like their prophecies and stuff. I think this could be like him potentially going on the journey to like, I don't know, walk through the cave system or walk through the whatever system to eventually get down and, he's going to ride a mythosaur. He's got to ride the mythosaur in this show. Like, you'd expect it anyways. Just because like, that's like the whole prophecy thing, and all that stuff. I mean, the Ugnaught talked about it in season 1, about the Mandalorians riding the mythosaur, like that sort of stuff. So like, I just think we're going to be getting a lot of allusions to him basically being the knight in shining armor going against the dragon, aka the mythosaur, and I think that could be one of our big money type shots or money type situations of this entire season.
Heck yeah. So that could be it. There's a lot of references to the riding the Rancor, Boba Fett. Hey, we've seen that happen before. We'll see what's gonna happen with that. Let's see. Getting into our next image here. Oh, this is another big one. I gotta admit, I wasn't expecting to see 4 Jedi Knights or Jedi Masters defending the Jedi Temple here. Milton, I know you're awake enough to know, or at least remember this shot, right?
Oh yeah, I saw this one. It's lightsabers.
Milton was ready.
If you don't like lightsabers, I mean, it's over for you. I mean, this is tight. I mean, look. it's cool to see. I mean, this got to be a flashback. I mean,
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't care what anyone tells you, it's flashback. So we got to see. I assume this is whenever Anakin
Yep.
or the clones attack the temple. So it's cool to see what they're going to do with this.
Yeah, I think we're gonna get the resolution of, oh, who saved Grogu. I think they teased it last season. We got a lot of backstory on Grogu. Like, we knew nothing about Grogu season one, and we know so much more. We got his name. Heck, we don't have to call him Baby Yoda anymore. He's got a name, Grogu. So we learned so much, and I gotta say, I respect Lucasfilm so far for not like putting Grogu in every other thing they've released. Like, it could have been so easy to put like Grogu in the background in Obi-Wan Kenobi. They could have been so easy to put him in the Bad Batch or something, or in Tales of the Jedi or anything like that. But they've been restraining themselves to tell his story solely in the Mandoverse content. And yeah, it's got to be Vader, right? I mean, who else could it be? That's the only
Um,
Dark Jedi we've seen. But it'll be cool to see, like, okay, who picks him up, and how does he end in the hands of some Hutt slavers or whatever those Nikto people were on that planet.
I agree with
Yeah,
that.
yeah. I mean, that was one. That was probably the shot that really like made me look the most like, or like really like go whoa the most at this, because it's like I think this shot opens up a lot of possibilities for a lot of different things. For one, it could be, remember the last time we saw these flashbacks happening, it was when Grogu was like connecting and like thinking about his past with like Ahsoka and all this stuff. So like my thing is, it's just like what's bringing up these memories? Is it gonna be, are we gonna have kind of like a dual story on Coruscant with Pershing? We saw Pershing on Coruscant. What if Grogu and Mando are on Coruscant as well and go, man, guys, what if we get the ruins of the Jedi Temple? Like, how cool would that be? Um, because the thing is, something's gonna have to like trigger this flashback for Grogu. And assuming it's a flashback, I mean, it's got to be. So, triggering this flashback, and then for two, it's like you mentioned, Chris and Milton, like, who the heck saves Grogu? Who the heck saves him? Like, are you gonna actually have, I don't know, Vader come in there, taking out these Jedi, and like him not realize or sense in the Force, like, oh, over in the corner, there's like a baby Yoda sitting over there. Like, they got to have someone swipe Grogu out of that scene before Vader gets in there to take everyone out.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of like, it's just a matter of who, like, because I was thinking about it. It can't be Ahsoka, because Ahsoka, or I don't think it would be for the timeline anyways, because wasn't Ahsoka fighting Maul during this?
Yep.
During like, okay, so it can't be Ahsoka, or they would be like mega retconning. So like, it strikes off Ahsoka. I mean,
I
are you
heard
gonna have?
I heard the rumor, or not rumors, but I heard speculation that could be Barasofi.
Oh, that'd be an interesting one. Yeah, I mean, maybe
Yeah.
Barris, maybe. I mean, see that this is the thing too. Like, I'm one of the biggest like bring back Mace Windu people, but you can't bring Mace Windu back through a flashback like this. Like it has to be more epic, so it won't be Mace. So to me, it's just like who who's it gonna be? Like you said, it could be Barris, and I don't think they're gonna just have some random, you know, I don't know, random person on the street grab him and go, oh, let me grab this little creature. So
Hmm.
it's just like, who the heck is it gonna be? That's a big question, and just a fun thing for us as fans. Like, man, guys, how hype is it gonna be if we see, even if it's 5 seconds, just see Vader get through the door, and we see Hayden like just
Oh
start,
yeah.
have like a 5 second little thing with the Jedi, and then it cuts, like, just to see Hayden again.
Well,
Like,
you know that they probably like filmed when they were doing Obi-Wan. Like, they knew this was
Sure.
remember, this was being filmed at the same time, so they're like, "Hey, Hayden, you want to come by the set one day and we'll just like shoot a couple other extra shots." Okay,
well,
here you
see,
go.
well, see, guys, here's something to throw out there too. Remember from 3 years ago now, whenever we had that November announcement of all the shows and everything, coming out of that, there were multiple reports from, like, the credible sources we've all talked about before, talking about one of the concept arts for the Obi-Wan show was like Anakin walking through the temple or something. It makes me wonder if they took that and placed it into this show, like as a flashback, like
Hmm.
Anakin against these Jedi, because like that came out around that time of the Star Wars panel in 2020. So it's just like, I wonder if that's the idea they took, and that's what we're getting here with these Jedi.
Yep.
Because you know this sequence is going to be really interesting. It's going to have everyone locked in because the prequel era is a special era in Star Wars, in my opinion, and it's always fun like getting looks. Because I don't know about you guys, but like when it comes to me, anyways, like I love getting like the I don't know how to describe it, like the backdoor looks at the movies, you know, like when Ahsoka is in Revenge of the Sith. Like, you know, like I love getting like those side angle looks at movies we already know like what's going on. Like I love this whole flashback thing because it's like, oh man, this was happening during Revenge of the Sith.
Mm-hmm. Very cool stuff. Yeah, jumping into the next one, we have TIE interceptors. And if this was to believe to be before the next shot, we'll be following a Gauntlet Starfighter of Mandalorian descent. But yeah, this is a big one for me as a fan. As I also said, Return of the Jedi is usually my favorite Star Wars film at any given time. So to have any iconography of Return of the Jedi is just always great. And the fact that it is the year of the 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi makes this even more special. But yeah, it's just really cool to see, again, the Imperial Remnant. And just when you thought that they had basically seemed defeated, they somehow have a whole squadron of elite TIE interceptors. Oh man, this was a nice surprise for me.
Yeah, no, it looked fire. It's a beautiful scene. I mean, I think the space battles in this show have been nothing but consistent. So I was pleased with the shot.
Yeah, the thing is, well, and it's like they haven't really even had that many, right? Season one, that you had that tiny like one-on-one space battle. There wasn't like any asteroids. It was just straight up in space. The Razor Crest versus some random bounty hunter. Season two, we did see like that little chase through the ice fields on that planet with Carson Teva. And already in season three, just from the promotion, we've seen an asteroid field chase. Now we're seeing a gauntlet fighter being chased by these TIE interceptors, and we'll continue on to the next shot here. We see this great shot. Reminds me of something from Empire Strikes Back, where the gauntlet fighter is a very large. It's not even it's not a small ship. You can have a bunch of crew in these ships, so they have to actually spin it to the side to fit it through the cannon, kind of like the Millennium Falcon pulls that trick when it's going in the asteroid field through the Exogorth's moon thing it was flying through. So yeah, really really great shots here for sure for a TV show especially.
Oh yeah, I
That's
mean,
yeah, that's hype. Yeah, that's hype. It looks good.
oh yeah, like throughout this trailer, that's another thing too. Like when I was watching this trailer, I was like, oh man, I know Chris always like appreciates the vehicles and stuff. So I was like, man, I bet he's gonna like really enjoy a lot of these different vehicles they're showing.
Yeah, and speaking of prequels, I did not catch this on the first viewing. We got B1 battle droids in Star Wars, guys. We got them. They're here. Yes, Lucasfilm's finally putting these things in Star Wars after the fact of the Phantom Menace and all those things. So, yeah, there's this like droid party happening. Maybe this is the Droid Gatra, which is a faction that's actually currently in the Star Wars comics alongside Black Sun, alongside Crimson Dawn, alongside the Pike Syndicate. You have the Droid Gatra, just a gang of droids, misfit droids. So, and we know they're in the time after after Return of the Jedi. So, hey, what good time to bring in a bunch of droids? But it's kind of like a reverse shot of the cantina scene from very first A New Hope. It's like no droids in here, and in this case, it's like yeah, no humans in here, only droids. So, where's their reaction to this? Anybody?
Honestly, I'll keep it 100% with y'all. I don't even care. Like I don't even care about the droids. Like I really don't. Like they do nothing for me. Like in this scene. I mean, I really because unless they're an integral part of the story, like okay, is this B battle on droids? You know what I'm saying? Like
But it's so cool because we
I
haven't
I,
seen.
I just want to see Mandal. I just want to see Mandalore. I just want to see the Mandalorian just kick ass. Like that's all I care about.
But
Yeah,
I think it's the significance of Lucasfilm addressing, like, yeah, we're putting B1 droids in Star Wars again. Like, for me, it's a
They
big
do
deal. It's
nothing
like
for
we
me.
haven't seen these guys literally since the prequels. Like, they haven't put them in any live action bits of anything. I remember, unless you count like the Rise of Skywalker, there was like a part of one hanging up on the wall of the little guy's room there.
yeah, I think yeah, for me it was just cool seeing him more than anything. Like Milton said, it's kind of whatever because like it probably, most likely, unfortunately, it's gonna be like a, I don't know, Mando walks into this place and then he walks out. Like, it could be something like that. Um, but then again, I mean, hey, knowing this show and knowing like baby Yoda cuteness, they'll probably do something to pay homage to, I don't know, like the Jedi using the Force on the battle droids or something. I could see
Yeah.
something like that happening just because it's like, like you said, Chris, they haven't put live action battle droids in since 2005, basically. So it's just a matter of what they're going to be doing, which probably isn't going to be a lot, but maybe we'll get proven wrong.
It's gonna be a droid. It's gonna be a B1 droid renaissance for 2023. I'm calling it here on Outer Rim Transmission number 92 on January 20th, 2023. Because let's see, we got them in the comics so far. We've seen some droids in the comics. We've already seen battle droids, I think, that are coming in this season of Bad Batch. We're getting them in Jedi Survivor. I'm sure they'll be mentioned in some novel at some point, maybe in the Jedi Survivor novel. And we're getting them in live action. So it's like, yeah, every medium is going to be covered with B1 battle droids. It's, again, Dan Griefus' favorite year because it's going to get fed with so much B1 content. Now, this is the next shot. This has the Anzellan species, same people as Babu Frick. Is this Babu Frick? I don't know. Ben, I think this is the same thing you just explained, which could happen with Din and the battle droids. Like in this, it seems like somebody falls next to a window, pans up, and these two little guys. I know a lot of people are freaking out on the internet about this more than almost anything else in this trailer. Everybody loves these little guys, but I really feel like these are going to be a blink and you miss it moment. You're going to see these guys for 5 seconds, and then it's going to go. So
They're going to be, I mean, at first glance, I was like, wait, was that Babu Frick, Because it was so quick.
yeah.
But I think what it's gonna end up being, like you said, it's gonna be a 5 second thing. It's gonna be like the what do you call him? My favorite little creature, the guy with Jabba. Like it's gonna be like
walking monkey lizards.
yeah, it's gonna be like those from the first Mandalorian trailer from Mando season 1, where it shows the cloaking monkey lizards like hanging out on like a telephone wire or whatever, looking at Mando walking into the Bounty Hunters Guild. Like it's gonna just be like that, probably just literally blink and you miss it type deal.
Well, by the way, we did get a quacky monkey lizard, but I just didn't include him on these slides because we've already seen him in the first trailer for season 3. But yeah, funny, interesting stuff there. Now, long call back to the beginning of this trailer breakdown. I was mentioning, Mandalore, people of Mandalore affected. This has got to be Mandalore. Is this an irradiated Aqualish or some other alien? I like it's such a blink and you miss it moment when this creature jumps down. But the way it has like 4 or 8 eyes, it looks like I would lead me to believe it's an Aqualish or something like that. But like just this random creature, when it first happened in a trailer, I screamed, "Oh my gosh!" For whatever reason, I said the Mythosaur when I was looking at the trailer for the first. Like, no, that can't be right. But what the hell? Like, this would be really cool if they introduced like a Fallout situation to the Star Wars universe, where it's like you got like the mutant goblin, whatever the hell those creatures are called in the Fallout series, and maybe you got some mutated aliens in Star Wars because of what happened with Sundari and all that.
Oh yeah, like I could definitely see this being, him, the let's just say Aqualish for all intents and purposes. I could see him, like maybe, like you said, Chris, it's gonna be something along those lines, like Din's feeling bad, like roaming around Mandalore, and he runs into like this dude, and it's like, oh, the fallout, blah 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 blah. It's gonna be something like that where it basically makes Din feel like crap.
It looks like a giant Bigfoot. It looks like a Star Wars Bigfoot.
Yeah, that's actually that's actually a really good one. Hey, maybe that is, yeah. We'll go with the Mythosaur. Like the Mythosaur is like Bigfoot. Milton Din discovers it.
Oh man, and the last shot, what's happening with that creature is being pushed the heck out of that cave by Grogu. Concentrated in the forest, having his little pram. Yeah, of course, it wouldn't be a Mandalorian trailer without Grogu in it. So it'll be fun
Yep.
getting those reactions from a lot of people online. Wait a minute. Last we left off Mandalorian was with Luke. Why is he here all of a sudden? I can't wait. I can't wait to see the internet explode with all that.
They aren't going to do that because they're going to do exactly what they did with the Kenobi show previously in Star Wars and recap 1 through 3. They're going to just do previously in Star Wars and recap
Oh yeah.
Grogu. They're going to do that. I would be willing to bet money on it. I bet you they do that because look, they showed precedence with it with Kenobi. Like they did that to basically, of course, what are the odds someone's watching Obi-Wan Kenobi and hasn't seen the prequels? But if you haven't, they put that little 2-minute previously in Star Wars on there. And I bet you they do that for this show, like previously in the Book of Boba Fett. And it's going to just do a little recap of Din going and picking up Grogu from Luke and like them flying off. And that's where it's going to continue, I bet. But of course, you will have those fringe people saying, oh, wait, what happened here? What happened there? But I think that should be fine. And then also to address like the shot here with Grogu, like force pushing the creature. Like we called it, we knew there would be some type of Grogu good shot in this show, and we got it. Like, they gotta put the money shot for any of the Mandalorian trailers has to be Grogu, just because it's Grogu at this point is like you have Darth Vader obviously is the most iconic Star Wars character, but Grogu is number 2 in my opinion. Like he's that noticeable now.
Yeah. Milton, thoughts on this little image here of Grogu?
He looks good. I mean, I think Ben's right. I mean, you got to include him in the trailer. He just better wreck people this season. He needs to do something badass.
Hell yeah. And along with all the images, we did get a new piece of key art for The Mandalorian Season 3. Of course, it's The Mandalorian, so it's going to focus, obviously, on Din Djarin. So, yeah, nice kinetic action here where we're seeing him floating through the air with his jetpack, Grogu in one hand. I like how the detail on his cape is, like, singed with magma. So I'm assuming this is probably on Mandalore, so it just shows us what's coming up next. Nothing really to glean from that. But yeah, there you go. That was our breakdown for the final trailer for Season 3 of The Mandalorian. Hopefully we get this and we're enjoying every single episode to the fullest because, we've been waiting a long time for it. So we're all excited over here, and we're sure you are out there listening, watching us for this new season. But yeah, I think that just about does it. Anybody have anything last to say about this trailer or anything else tonight?
No, I'm good. I'm just looking forward to the show, man. Hopefully it's good, which I assume it will be.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I think we're in for a real treat for this season of Mando. And to me, really, this feels like the start. Of course, last year or the last time we saw Mando with when Ahsoka made that Thrawn connection. I think this season is going to be like the first. Of course, we've had little hints here and there. Ahsoka, we've had Bo-Katan talking about stuff. We had Carson Teva talking about stuff. But I think this season is the true kickoff to the Mandalorian universe, like crossing over or starting to like really do their connective tissue stuff. Because, look, we already have Carson Teva talking about more going on out there. We have the Mandalore. The Mandalore story is going to be front and center. That'll be the main story. But you'll have all of these breadcrumbs in the background, like Carson Teva. You'll have the hints of the Imperial stuff with Dr. Pershing. You'll have those type of things. I think this is going to be the season that we're going to really get that connective tissue. Yeah. And then on top of it, we got to remember as well, we're getting Ahsoka this year as well. Skeleton Crew's looking like it's probably the end of the year. So like we're getting these 3 quote unquote like Mandoverse shows that are all connected in like a calendar year basically. So to me, like this is the true start of these shows really, really being connected.
Yeah, I like the idea of as I was saying before when we were talking about Coruscant, like season 1 and 2 are very individualized. Like especially season 1, like we very rarely did we ever look to another storyline other than Din because the story was so small. It was just focus on him. There's no need to focus on any other characters at that point. And then now we got a whole spin-off with Book of Boba Fett. I'm expecting season 3 to be the caliber of Andor as far as characters are. I think we're going to be jumping around quite a bit, which is needed. I'm looking for a larger impact. I want to see this impact. And you can't really feel the impact of and weight of a conflict unless you're getting the different perspectives on either side of the war. So yeah, give us those storylines of Pershing. Maybe we'll have a storyline that continues of a thread with Moff Gideon on trial with the New Republic. That'd be really cool. Maybe somebody's trying to break him out. Maybe that's what's happening. Maybe Pershing's trying to break out Moff Gideon. Maybe he's on in a prison on Coruscant or something like that. So there's a lot of potential there. And well, we don't have much longer to wait. We have just over a month until we start breaking that down every week on the channel here. Yeah, so that's gonna do it. Where can the people find you, and what are you gonna be up to this week, Milton?
Watching the Eagles tomorrow. Tough game. That's all I care about. Nothing else I'm doing. Eagles tomorrow night. Like that's just keeping it 100. Playoff game. Trying to go to the chip. They can find me on Twitter at MiltonWeber7 or Instagram at Milton7Weber.
There you go, Ben.
There you go. I mean, that's pretty much my plans as well, Milton.
Yep.
Just watching playoff football all weekend is pretty much all my only plans this weekend are just watching playoff football. Also watching The Last of Us on Sundays. That show, God, I'm not sure if you've watched it yet, Milton, but me and Chris, like, we could probably talk about that for an hour, and I haven't even played the game before, and I think that show is phenomenal. For me not being like for me not having played that game at all, the way they started the series, it hooks anybody who watches it.
Perfect.
It hooks anybody who watches it perfectly. And it's kind of like, I alluded to it when I was talking to my cousins about this and my good friend. It's kind of like how Mando Season 2 does. You know, they introduce Bo-Katan so smoothly. They introduce Ahsoka smoothly. Like, they do such a John and Dave did such a good job of, like, it appeases to the hardcore fans, but it's easy enough for the new fans to consume. And like The Last of Us, for me not playing the game, like it was easy enough for me to consume and get hooked by the story. As soon as you get through the first 5 minutes, like the intro stuff, you know what I'm talking about, Chris, when they talk about what goes on. Like when you get into the intro stuff, that hooks you enough like, oh man, this is wild. And the craziest thing to keep in mind too, like I was doing some reading this week. I haven't looked into any of the spoilers for the game or anything, but like that, the crux of The Last of Us is actually based off of like a real fungus and bugs like in the real world. So it's crazy, like seeing them, like, to me, when they apply concepts like that, like real world concepts, and make them like far-fetched like this show is, it's so good. Like, and the quality is amazing, and it's with our lead lovable Din Djarin himself, Pedro Pascal, leading the way. So I highly recommend that show to anybody that's listening to this podcast. Definitely check it out. It only just started last week, so we have plenty of time to hop into it. So yeah, you can find me talking about that show and the NFL playoffs and fitness on Twitter at RealBenMaynard, and then you can find me documenting my fitness journey on Instagram of working on getting shredded again at RealBenMaynard as well.
Yeah. Pedro Pascal does a hell of a performance. Oh my gosh, that guy absolutely kills it, as well as everybody else involved. And this is a fun fact. There's an actor that plays his brother in the show named Tommy. His name is Gabriel Luna. And I'm happy I remembered to talk about this because Gabriel Luna is a huge Star Wars fan. He has gone on the record on video talking to Ash Crossan over at ET Online. And she straight up has a conversation with him about Star Wars. He's like, yeah, I've written letters to Dave Filoni to put me in as Ezra Bridger years ago. He's like, yes, I would do a great job if Ezra Bridger, all this stuff. But then he started going on a tangent about the High Republic. He's like, yeah, I read the books. He's like, I'd be a great Stellan Geos or Elzar Mann. Sorry, Elzar Mann. I was like, oh my gosh, this guy is hardcore. Like, somebody get this guy on the phone. Like, get him in something now. This guy's got, and he's cool because I already have experience like watching this actor and other things because I'm a big fan of Marvel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. when it was on there. And he played Ghost Rider, which was like this Robbie Reyes version of Ghost Rider. He was so good. And that was like one of the best parts of that entire series is when they did that whole storyline with Ghost Rider, and now he's in The Last of Us playing opposite of Pedro Pascal, and it's like, damn, just get this guy in Star Wars. So it's always fun when you see like an actor actively like reaching out of their own way to be like, I want to be in this, you know.
Oh yeah, it's always a lot of fun. Like I love seeing I love seeing actors like get so excited about that. It just makes things it just makes things a lot more fun. I mean, heck, talking about actors having a lot of fun with it. Did you guys see a couple weeks ago Leonardo DiCaprio? He worked on some movie or something with someone. I forget the actor's name. Anyways, like Leo and the other actor were like talking about whatever they were promoting, and it was funny because the other actor was like, "Man, you know, Leonardo is such like a big Star Wars fan. Like he forced me to watch both seasons of The Mandalorian.
What?
Like because he said he kept coming to set every day, like bothering me. Like, have you watched it? Have you watched it?
Oh
Have
my
you watched it?
gosh.
So he said like he finally made him sit down and they binge watched both seasons of it
Holy
because
crap.
DiCaprio is such a big Star Wars fan. Like
Oh.
because he was like, oh, you got to check it out for like this and that and like. I guess DiCaprio is like a really big Star Wars fan like that.
Oh.
And it's like it's so cool seeing actors like like be passionate about Star Wars because like normally like how many times Chris have we and Milton have we seen like actors it's like the generic, oh, I'd love to be in Star Wars. Well, of course you would. It's like a big check.
Mm.
But like you see them actually being like passionate about it. It's just so freaking cool.
Yeah, so you could also
Yeah.
find me talking about Last of Us. I'll be painting miniatures, watching paint dry this weekend. So that's what I'm gonna be up to. You can follow me at Starrapter, and of course, if you're not watching, YouTube.com/Starrapter is where you can find the content that I produce. And as always, I'm talking about the Star Wars comics and more. And we do host this podcast on any podcast streaming app. Make sure you go ahead if you can't watch us as we go live. You can listen to us at the gym, on the drive to work, everything else you do. Just look up Outer Rim Transmission, Spotify, Google Play Music, Apple Music, Amazon Music, all that. I'm pretty sure it's on at this point. So there you go. For Milton, for Ben, for I, Chris, aka Starraptor. This was Outer Rim Transmission, episode 92. Thanks for watching. May the force be with you. End transmission.